Hi Alia, we're here now with Dr. Irfan Al-Mahdi to get an update on the medical condition of the 104 members of our faith that have been detained by Turkish authorities in Edirne deportation center since more than 1 month. More than 1 month is an extremely long time for a person with a medical condition, an elderly, or a child. Hi Dr. Irfan.
Hello.
Can you please give us a breakdown of the medical condition of the 104?
Yes, so based on some of the reports that have come out, including people who've been acutely unwell, they've suddenly fallen very ill, as well as those living with, like you mentioned, chronic health conditions. It's definitely a concern because facilities and that they're offering there at Edirne is definitely not in keeping with what one would expect when you look at the various human rights conventions to do with the provision of healthcare to refugees or asylum seekers. And I think a few cases definitely highlight how alarming the situation is. But in general, when you've got a bunch of, over 100 people that are comprised of men, women, children, elderly, people with chronic health problems, certainly it can't be a good thing. There's two elements to it. One is the physical health element, and we know, for example, that people who are kept in these kind of detention centers with limited space to move, they often develop certain health problems from basic cardiovascular decline, where you are not able to move naturally, have exposure to sunlight, fresh air, things of this nature. If you have diabetes, high blood pressure, other kinds of conditions, they worsen in these kind of captivity environments. You have things like muscle atrophy, you have loss of various things that you would take for granted on an ordinary everyday-to-day basis.
Thank you. And there was one case of a sister who is diabetic and she suffered a psychogenic shock. What happened with that sister and how did the prison guards respond to that?
نعم قلت لك هو في الأول الطبيب ما عرف قال لي هل إبيليبسي؟ قلت له لا مو حالة إبيليبسي، هي شوك سينكوبال، يعني ممكن تموت المرأة تروح فيها. قال لي ودوها المستشفى الأمراض العقلية. أنا قلت له ما هكذا، قال لي أنت مين؟ قلت له أنا طبيبة من الجزائر. قلت له ما هكذا، قلت له ما تعطوها دواء ولا تعطوها يعني حقنة ولا تودوها المستشفى تعملوا لها إنعاش ولا؟ قال لي لا ودوها المستشفى ودوها مستشفى الأمراض العقلية. قلت له ما هكذا الطب، ما هذه هي الإنسانية. قال لي خلاص ارجعي للجزائر، إيه جابك لينا؟ وقال لي خلاص ما فيها.
It was really disturbing to read and see how she was managed. I mean, this was based on an eyewitness account of a person who's also a medic on the ground. And being a diabetic, she lost consciousness and fainted.
Dr. Irfan further explained that individuals dependent on insulin for diabetes are at a risk of hypoglycemic attacks. These attacks occur when insulin causes blood sugar levels to drop dangerously low, leading to symptoms like anxiety, shaking, and a rapid heartbeat. Without prompt action, the person may lose consciousness and experience severe consequences, including death.
A very callous, extremely cold-hearted, non-empathic approach was adopted as the people start to scream. The guards casually come in with cigarettes and accuse the patient of, making the whole thing up. And then, telling the people there's nothing wrong, knowing this woman is a diabetic and unconscious, saying this is a mental illness and we're going to send her to a mental health hospital. And that just goes to show how incredibly brutal the treatment of the detainees is. And the medic on the ground there is saying, how can you do this? This is so inhumane. The response of the guards and the medic is, well, why don't you go back to Algeria?
What about rights of refugees to medical treatment? Is there anything that we know from the Geneva Convention or from the Human Rights Declaration that could safeguard the rights of refugees to receive medical treatment?
Yes, so this is a controversial topic because although the human rights conventions all say something along the lines of that refugees should essentially have access to the same healthcare opportunities that the local population should have, this is in an idealistic scenario, this rarely happens, unfortunately. And certainly in this case with the detainees in Turkey, it is the case. Not only do the refugees have rights to immediate access to emergency care, but also to preventative medicine care.
I mean, we heard really outrageous things like the prison guards, they give the same medication to the person who has toothache, which they give to the same person that has a stomach ache, and so on and so forth. And the detainees there, they notice these things and they become more unsure and uncertain about which medicine to take and if they're being taken care of at all.
Talk about, I mean, they're not even providing them with the bare necessities. Like you said, it's one drug for all things. Yep, this is a painkiller, this is a sugar pill, this is a blood pressure tablet. It seems like it's one fix for all, and it's really, really horrible and amazing and very insane to hear that this is happening on the ground.
We heard a lot of statements that were leaked about physical torture, also other forms of mental torture, sexual threats, and so on and so forth. Do you feel that this torture is systematic? Is there a pattern to it?
When you look at what is the outcome of torture? I mean, conventionally speaking, it's to extract information, right? You want to put somebody in a unbearable situation where they then divulge this information that is being sought after. And of course, everybody now knows, and it's very well established, that torture is not an effective way to get accurate information from anyone. That's number one. The number two form of torture, which I think is being employed very, very skillfully here, is to create such an unbearable situation and so as to forever deter these people from even considering fleeing from their country where they're facing tremendous and extreme levels of persecution. The goal is to get them to go back to their homeland, treat them in such a way that they wouldn't even consider coming back again, because they will be meted out with this type of brutal punishment, which is now being done in this Detainees detention camp.
I mean, what we know from news reports from all around the world is that refugees usually attempt again and again and again and again to cross the same borders. It's a vain hope that torture would prevent people in need whose life is under threat. Yeah, it's just brutality with no purpose, really.
It's an extremely tragic situation, and the idea is to plant that seed of hopelessness, which leads to so many suicides, and people die. They would rather die, and try to make it on the other side. And this is something the Turkish authorities are definitely feeding and propagating by the way they're treating these poor refugees. All you can do is implore and really appeal to these human rights organizations, to the UN, Amnesty, anybody, to look at the plight of these people who, like you said, are being treated even worse than the ordinary person fleeing persecution because on the grounds of their religious beliefs. And I think the efforts being made, here on the ground have been tremendous, but now we really need these human rights organizations to stand up and do what they're there to do, which is to prevent this horrendous violation of human rights that we're seeing. Thank you so much.
After all that we've heard from Dr. Irfan, it's safe to say that whoever is a detainee in Edirne deportation center is not only being physically abused, psychologically abused, specifically by the medical staff, and not only the prison guards. Medication is being administered in the wrong way, and people that are in a medically critical condition are being left alone and not attended to. Thank you, Alia. Back to you.